Hello, Goshen Theater Drama Club members, Goshen Theater fans, friends, and family. Welcome to episode 9 of Goshen Theater Drama Club Table Talks. What? Today, the ladies and Paul are going to be talking about different jobs in theater aside from onstage jobs. So we've got some really cool ideas for you guys and things, if whatever you're good at, there's a job in theater for you. So we are excited to bring you this topic today. As always, we've got Miss Katie and Miss Molly with us and a special guest panelist today, Mr. Paul Regano, live from the big city of New York, the city that never sleeps.
Except it's snoozing right now.
It is, except nap time. Sometimes there's nap time. So as always in our Goshen Theater Drama Club Table Talk episodes, we always like to start with your questions from last week. And we actually have a few questions. I'm going to throw it to Paul. He's going to talk about the first question that we got for the week. This one's a humdinger.
Oh, humdinger. I see what you did there.
Yeah.
It's a musical question. So the question this week is, I want to write a song. Where do I start? And boy, when I figure it out, I'll let you know. The good news is you already have. By wanting to write a song, I mean, like that's the first step. If you have an idea for a song, you started writing it. If you just want to write a song in general, I would say gravitate towards something that you care a lot about or know a lot about, something that's important to you. I remember the first song that I ever wrote was right after I had my heart broken. So it was not a love song per se, it was an anti-love song, but so that's the first step, period.
Get your heart broken.
Get your heart broken. Listen, it's been a pretty good, pretty reliable source of inspiration for decades.
Thousands and thousands of years.
Yeah, thousands of years.
For all of humanity.
But yeah, so if you have something that you already know you want to write about, I would say, there was a people used to ask all the time when Rodgers and Hammerstein, the fathers of musical theater, they used to ask them, the big question was, which comes first, the music or the lyrics? And it's still a big question that people ask. The answer is neither and both. So you don't, if you get words, sometimes, the other night I couldn't sleep and I got out of bed and went over to my keyboard to start working on a song that I needed to be writing. And I tried to start poking out some musical ideas. I thought about what the song is about and what the character is feeling in that moment. It's for a musical I'm working on. So I had the help of, I know where in the show it takes place and what the song needs to accomplish. But outside of the realm of musical theater, you don't have to think about that, obviously. But I started to poke around musical ideas as I usually do. I'll start to find musical phrases and musical things that I like that inspire the musical vocabulary of the song. And nothing was coming, nothing was sticking. Everything felt either bad or uncreative. And if I tried to make it more creative, it got bad. So I said, all right, well, let's just start writing some words. And I am not a big word person. I write with a partner who handles the words usually. We both do both, but really he's more of the word guy. But that night I just started writing down words because I knew what the character was feeling, and it just kind of poured out of me. And then I was able to fall back asleep. And I brought it to him the next day, and he said, okay, yeah, we'll use that somewhere. And we still haven't used it, but it got the ball rolling. So you don't need to know how to play an instrument. You don't need to know about lyric structure. If you want to do some Googling about how songs are, structured and how they work, you're welcome to. It's not going to be unhelpful. I would say surround yourself with music. Look at the music that you like and listen to kinds of music that you aren't familiar with, and think about find common themes, right? If you play an instrument, take sheet music and read it and really look at, oh, what are they doing here? Why does that C chord follow that G chord? If you are, say, a guitar player strumming G's and C's. So that's my thing. Surround yourself with music and don't be afraid to just jump in. Yes.
Yes. I like that. I also like the idea, just like dump out whatever your thoughts are on a piece of paper. That's like the whole idea of the artist way, Miss Molly. Just like dump the thoughts out, and then just pick the different ideas. And also, I like the idea too, Paul. This is so cool that the way that you guys work is that you aren't afraid to show your silly, like maybe not the best stuff, but like your thoughts that you just dumped out on a piece of paper. You're not scared to show that to somebody that you're partnering with. And I get most of my good ideas from situations like this, where I'm sitting and hanging out with people who are creative and cool, and I say something and then they have even more brilliant ideas than me. Impossible, I know, but it happens. Miss Katie, what's our second question from today?
Our second question today is, where do you find the craft ideas for the kids that you do with your stepdaughter? So, I use Pinterest a lot. Back when coronavirus really started happening and parents were looking for things to do with their kids to spend time, there was a lot of posts going around on Facebook. Most led back to Pinterest. If you just go to Pinterest and like literally Google, you search for in Pinterest craft ideas with kids or science lessons with kids. I was doing those with Hannah as well. I just think it's very important right now to really cultivate all different kinds of learning within kids. So like we were doing dance lessons through YouTube where it was available, and we were going to Pinterest and we were finding those crafts and like using found items at home. Like construction paper can go a long way, guys. Tape, glue, can do so much for you. So that's where I'm getting them. Pinterest. Head on over, check it out.
Oh, I love Pinterest. I love it.
It's dangerous.
It is a rabbit hole. It is a rabbit hole. And it's any topic. It's so cool. I remember when I first looked at Pinterest, I had no idea what it was. And I was like, oh, it's like a cork board, but on the internet. Like it's a creative place to sort of put all of your ideas and go back later and look at them. It's one of the ways that the Goshen Theater Drama Club stuff comes together, is I'll try to look for curriculum ideas and things like that too. So yeah, I've used it in a lot of ways. Also costume design, when I've done that. Look for designs and put them on a Pinterest page.
If you're looking to like plan a wedding, so many boards for weddings.
So many. And if Pinterest wants to sponsor Goshen Theater Drama Club Table Talks, just saying, we'll happily discuss how useful it is. And it won't be like last week's Mountain Dew debacle.
Sorry.
It's fine. Miss Molly, oh, we had a specific question for specifically Miss Specific Molly.
Wow, this is very exciting for
me. You're a star. You're a star, Miss Molly.
My question is, how did you start being a dance teacher or like a choreographer, which is a lot of what I do? So I feel like my path to doing choreography was a little bit different than some people. But in college, I took a lot of dance classes, and before that, I took a lot of dance classes, and I've always been in shows. So being able to dance is always that I wanted to get better at, and I think I greatly improved that skill in college because I had to take so many different styles at a much higher level than I had before. But then last summer at the Barn Theater, which is the summer stock theater I've worked at, I've mentioned maybe a couple of times in previous episodes, the choreographer had me be his dance captain. And I'll actually talk about this later, so this is like kind of foreshadowing. But basically I was helping him out with a lot of choreography and teaching the choreography. And I've always loved teaching, and I've always loved dance. So I think those two things really went together for me, and I just had never really thought about doing that besides performing. So I graduated in December, a semester early, and I grew up here in Goshen. So Katie O'Leary, the director of the musicals at Goshen High School, who is incredible, reached out to me and said, we're looking for a choreographer for Big Fish the Musical, and we heard that you were graduating. Would you be interested? And I said yes. And that was genuinely the first like big choreography experience I had where like I was the one not only teaching, but also coming up with all of the choreography. So yeah, I really love that. I went on to do a lot of work for the Crimson Airs, their show choir. I'm the choreographer for Drama Club. I'm about to choreograph the 2020 season at Round Barn Theater. So I think it just kind of came into my path at the right time. But I'm really passionate about using dance to tell a story. I was a teaching assistant for our voice and movement classes back at Western Michigan University. So I've always loved teaching. I've always found the body really interesting and like just how the body works and how movement works. And so it's just something I've always been really passionate about, and it kind of fell into my lap at the right time, and it's something that I would really like to carry with me along with performing throughout my career now. But if you do want to be a dance teacher, there's definitely ways to do that. Take as many dance classes as you can, reach out to the studios in your area, make those local connections, and that's really how I did it. So yeah, that's my answer.
I love that. I think there's an element of that too that's like, just be willing to volunteer to do stuff. Like if you're passionate about theater, you're probably already volunteering to do stuff. But like I got into directing because I volunteered to assistant direct back when I was 13 or 14 years old. Like, yeah, you say, hey, I'm here and I want to be involved and how can I help? And that's how it happens. People can see it on your resume too. We talked about resumes. They could see, oh, you've assistant directed. Maybe they're interested in directing, and then like opportunities happen.
What Miss Molly said, she mentioned like show choirs, directing for your show choir. Like I used to do that in middle school and high school, like for younger show choirs, because I was in show choir as well. I would choreograph for my own show choir. So like if that's something you're interested in, talk to your teachers or talk to the teachers of the younger groups and see if they need a choreographer. Because if you come from a school that doesn't have a budget to bring in outside sources like Molly, that would be huge to someone. Like it's just one more thing that you can help out with. So that's a great suggestion, I think.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Anything to add, Paul?
No, just to second everything that's being said, just especially the if you have any desire to do it, talk to someone who does do it, or anyone who has any kind of power or influence. Don't be afraid to just say, like, this is something I'm interested in. I have no idea where to start. I have no idea. But 9 times out of 10, they will say, I know someone who I can hook you up with, who you can talk to about X. And then if they don't know, they'll send you to someone else. And that's this business. That's all it is. Interest
and initiative and piping up.
Mm-hmm.
I volunteer like that. That's how it works. So those are great questions. As always, we love to get your questions, and you can submit a question in a million different ways. Some of our questions have come through people just having conversations with me through Drama Club parents. We've gotten a couple of comments on our Facebook page, a couple of messages on our Facebook page, and I'm monitoring that 24/7. So feel free to ask a question there. You can leave a comment here on our YouTube video. You can put a comment in the link on Facebook as well to the Facebook post with the video. Any of those places, we'll definitely see your question, and that's how to get your question on next week's show. So if you have any questions about this week's episode, that's what you do. And speaking of this week's episode, today we are talking about jobs in theater that are not acting, singing, dancing jobs. One of the questions that we get from parents most often at Drama Club, and this is so interesting to me, is my kid is creative, but they don't want to be out in front of people. Do you guys have something for it? We've actually gotten this question 3 times this week from different parents. And that's one of the things that I love about Drama Club is that it's not all performer-centered, but we do have performance every day. We do dance and sing every day, but it's not just performing. We talk about all kinds of other stuff and other kinds of technical theater, history, writing, all kinds of neat things. So there's a lot for all kinds of different interests for all y'all. But today we're going to talk about where those things might go, the different jobs in theater that exist off the stage. And I think we're starting with Miss Molly. What are some jobs in theater that aren't acting from your perspective, Miss Molly? What you got?
Yeah. So this sort of segued right from what I was saying. So there's a lot of jobs that you can do where you're an actor, but you also have some additional responsibilities in another area. So I just mentioned being a dance captain, which is something that I have done in the past. As a dance captain, you are kind of just like the right-hand man, right-hand woman for the head choreographer. If they need help coming up with moves, they might reach out to you. If they want to practice moves, they'll reach out to you. They will most likely have you teach, or like if anyone has questions during the rehearsal process, instead of coming to them, well, they need to get more work done for the next number, they can come to you. So it's a really fun way to be in a leadership position and sort of work your way up to being a choreographer, or seeing if that's something that you're interested in, or if you just like teaching, or if you feel like you have some leadership skills, that would be something that's really neat to do. I know on Broadway, the shows run for so long that if you're the dance captain, sometimes the choreographer leaves and is like totally going to another project, and new cast members are coming in, and it's then your responsibility to make sure that all the choreography is staying authentic to the show. Everyone, all the spacing is exactly like it should be, and it's not changing and morphing as like the run gets longer and longer. So that's a dance captain. And then I was also thinking about there's something called a swing, which swings mainly happen in shows that run for longer periods of time, usually in professional theater, but we did have swings at my university, so sometimes you might run into this in educational theater, just depending on where you are. At swings and understudies. You've probably heard of an understudy before. That's the person who is learning, let's say, the lead role, but they're not playing that role. But if that actor who's playing that role gets sick or has an emergency and has to leave, you can step in and play that role. So it's a lot of pressure and it's a lot of work, and you don't even know exactly if you're going to be able to do that or not. So that's an understudy. And then a swing is along the same lines, but you're usually, so an understudy sometimes will be, this is getting so complicated. An understudy will sometimes be in the ensemble of the show already. So like you'll be in the show no matter what, you're just not sure if you're going to play like the bigger role you're understudying for. A swing is usually not in the show initially, and instead of understudying one role, they're usually covering or learning 2 to 5, depending on the show, ensemble parts or smaller roles. So you have to learn like five people's tracks to that show. And then if any of those people are out for any reason, you're going in. So you could go in as chimney sweep number 4 in Mary Poppins today, and then tomorrow you're going in for Jane. Actually, probably not Jane in Mary Poppins. I'm not sure why that was the only character I could think of, but maybe the bird woman. Another small role. Jane's a very large role and played by a child.
Maybe you're Jane one day, maybe you're the bird woman the next. You never know.
So that's sort of what a swing does. So you still get to perform, but in fact, like you're kind of doing a lot more work than a lot of people. It's pretty cool. I've done it before. It's not easy.
Broadway swings, that is a specialized skill, because the cool thing about the Broadway swing is that they don't know where they're at on any given day. They actually have to show up at call at the theater and read on a list what their job is that night. Like they're guaranteed to go on, but they don't know what they'll be doing. And like, that's crazy. Les Miserables was the first show on Broadway to employ the swing system.
No way, I didn't know that. That's
yeah,
so cool.
they invented it, and it is now revolutionized everything. Yeah.
Wow. That's awesome.
But normally Paul is the fun fact person, but I got to be the fun fact person. So what are some other non-acting, non-actor plus kind of jobs? Like what are some of the backstage jobs that people have, Miss Molly?
Yes, so there is a stage manager. If you are a very organized, schedule-oriented person, you'd probably be a great stage manager. They are calling all of the cues of the show. Sometimes they're telling the lights when the lights come up, and they're telling all the actors how much time there is until to start, and they're just making sure everything runs smoothly. All of the little jobs that you wouldn't even think of that someone needs to do, the stage manager is doing all of them and doing them really, really well. Maybe I don't know if there's a better way to expand on stage managing, but there's that. There's
that runs everything on stage and backstage. They just run the whole show, and they have other people under them that execute all the jobs, but they're the one who tells everybody what to do. So if you're bossy and you like calendars, Maybe like Miss Molly. Maybe Miss Molly would be a very good stage manager because she's.
I actually have stage managed a cabaret show at my summer stop.
You're friendly, a little bit bossy, and love calendars.
Yeah. You're also the person in a show that's running for a longer period of time. Like Miss Molly said, the choreographer will leave, the dance captain maintains the dance. When the director leaves, the stage manager is the person that really maintains the show in perpetuity in an open-ended run.
And I know we said that like once your show opens, it's okay to make a mistake when we talked about the episode that goes wrong. When we talked about when things go badly, well, bad news. The stage manager actually does have a copy of the script in front of them, and they will tell you after the show that you messed up the line and how you messed it up, which is actually really nice. I like it when I get a line note that says, hey, this is how you messed it up. So you can go, okay, whew, that's never going to happen again.
Sometimes if you mess up continually, you might get a fine. And that is the stage manager's job to give it to you as well, like to let you know, hey.
Or if you're late,
get it together.
Yeah. They also like tell all of the lights people, the spotlight operators, when they need to go. And one of the cool things I think that's neat about being a stage manager is that you do have control over the show. So on your headset, you're in communication with all of the people backstage and all of the jobs that we're talking about now. That stage manager is in communication with all of those folks to make sure that all of that stuff is running. I love stage management. I think they're the heroes of the theater, and I feel like it should be a category in the Tonys.
Yeah, you're right.
Excellence in stage management. Like,
I don't know how they would vote on that, but I support it.
Yeah, well, they would have there's union members. Well, never mind. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it, and we'll present it to the Tony board so that we can change the world for stage managers.
Broadway League on the line.
Yes, love it. Oh goodness, stage management. What else do we got backstage?
We have kind of our deckhands, like the people that are moving the sets. They are watching all the spikes on the stage, making sure everything is exactly where it's going to be. There might be members of the costume crew that are backstage ready for quick changes for actors. I know we've told a lot of quick change stories. I feel like I'm missing some. I'll throw it out to everyone. But yeah, there's lots of people backstage.
You mentioned deckhands. There is actually a deck captain or a deck chief. Yeah. Deck captain, right?
Yep.
Who is basically in charge of the backstage operations, specifically in the wings on the stage. Doesn't go, because there's more than just the wings, but specifically the things that happen on the stage.
Yeah, there are particular wardrobe people as well, like quick change artists and wardrobers. There are folks too for props as well as costumes who are the quick prop people, and your people who do cataloging of properties and all of that stuff. Like basically backstage, and you guys, most of you who are on Table Talks have probably been in a backstage environment. Anything that's back there that needs to be in the show needs to be managed by somebody, and we need to make sure that everything is in the right order. Like if you have multiple sets in a show, they aren't just all right where they need to be from the beginning of the play. Like if you're doing Cinderella, you're not going to have the pumpkin carriage out there ready to roll out at the beginning of the show. So somebody back there has to get all that stuff ready. And those people on deck are instrumental in making the show run. And there's some incredible plays where those deck people have to do amazing work backstage that nobody ever sees. It's really amazing. It's one of the many privileges of being an actor that you get to see the work and the artistry of people who are often unsung in the art form. But yeah, I think wardrobers and all those quick change people, it's crazy. They're amazing. They do great work.
I actually just read something that the history of the ninja being dressed all in black actually comes from a theatrical tradition of stagehands, that ninjas would not, if they wanted to an actual ninja would want to just blend in and wear street clothes so they kind of disappear in a crowd. But anyway, I think that's
love that.
Theater ninjas.
Oh, that's what they are. So yeah, there's the captains, wardrobers, all of those backstage folks with their hands directly in the show who are at the play doing work during the show. I think it takes probably in general for most shows more people doing something backstage than people on stage. And even when you're an actor who's doing that stuff backstage, you're probably spending more time doing things backstage and off stage than you are spending time on stage, generally, unless you're like, I don't know, Tevye or Mary Poppins. But that's great. Do you have any other final thoughts, Miss Molly, on backstage jobs?
I think that's all I've got for now, but I'm sure I'm going to chime in later.
Oh yes, well we're doing everything as a round table today. Miss Katie.
Yes, what's our
next category?
We're going to talk about directing. So a director is the person who does all the research before the actors come into the space, along with other designers as well. And they've got a vision for the show through the text and the story that they want to tell, and they're going to use that text. And sometimes they are part of the casting process. Sometimes you have a casting director, but they are in line with what the director and artistic director have in mind for the show. So the director literally is the person that's telling you where you should be on stage. They're giving you like the world within you live in. They're guiding you. I like to think of them as a guide because it should be a collaboration. They have a vision that they want to tell their story with. They've brought in other people to help them tell it. So it's all about, okay, I chose you for a reason. Let's play basically on this stage together and let's find out exactly what we're trying to do within this scene. As a children's theater director, which is actually where I live more. So Amber and everybody, like Amber specifically, I know has done a lot more directing on the professional side with adults and full-blown productions. I mostly direct children. It's usually in an artistic educator role, like through Prairie Fire Children's Theater. They're a touring company that's out of Minnesota. They travel through many different states, through the upper Midwest and kind of the lower Midwest. And every week you're someplace different. You get a new set of kids. You teach them the same show every week. And you are on stage with them. So it really challenges you as a director because you have to have lots of patience. You have to make sure that your kiddos are okay. They know what they're doing. You have to, as an artist, be on stage with them and be able to do your role. But it's so freeing. It's like one of the most selfless things you'll ever do is to work for a company like that because you as an actress just stop worrying about what you're doing. It's all about your kids and getting them through their scenes. And you know their show inside and out. And when I tell you I could like literally do every single one of their lines, I can. And I do if they need me to. So it's all about getting them through their show. And in a professional setting, you know, the director after the show opens may not be around as much. I've had directors who leave. They may come back in and check in on the show, but it really is up to the artist and the captains, like the music captain and the choreography captain, and then the stage manager to keep the show in the same line that it was when the director left them. That was a lot. I don't know if it made any sense. Please help me, friends.
So I think the primary job of a director, you hit the nail right on the head, Miss Katie. The primary job of the director is to oversee the overall vision of the show. So they're there to interpret the material, and the director works on the artistic side the same way the stage manager works on the backstage side. So they have a bunch of people that have jobs underneath their idea, and they tell people, okay, we're going to do this show. We're going to do Into the Woods. Costume designer, it's going to be in a commedia dell'arte style. Set designer, that's actually a really good idea.
Amber's got the first play to go up on the Goshen Theater stage. She's ready.
So they would say, we're going to do it in this style. So that's going to inform a lot of choices for the designers. So they'll get the idea and they tell other people about the idea, and then everybody's creativity flourishes within the idea of the director. That's how it's supposed to work in general. And then the director brings that idea to the actors and says, all right, actors, we've cast you because you've got all of these qualities that we love, and this is how we're going to do the show. So bring what you have. And then the actor gets to do their job of bringing their creativity to the forefront, which you also talked about, which I love. So yeah, I think that is, like, people think of directors as the people that tell you where to stand. Like they're gonna tell you where to stand, and they're gonna tell you like how to feel. They're gonna tell you your motivation, And that's such a small piece, and often not a piece at all, of what the director does. But yeah, basically working with the entire creative team to tell the story the best way possible, which is great. You touched a little bit on casting directors. I think casting directors are another job in directing. That's someone who knows people, who's really good at looking at someone and saying, okay, Into the Woods in a Commedia dell'arte style, this person has puppetry experience, and they have all these other qualities that we need to play these parts. Let's give them a try. But the casting director does a ton of work behind the scenes before the play even exists. They're trying to get all of that work done. So casting directors, there's like dramaturgy. That's
I was
another.
going to say, that's my favorite person in the
Yes.
directorial department.
Yeah. What do you think of dramaturgs? What is a dramaturg, Paul?
Well, a dramaturg is someone who essentially preserves the world of the show.
Ooh,
Every play that you have
fancy.
ever seen, every musical, every movie, even any piece of art, does something, my favorite part of the writing process, called world building. And we have, specifically if you're doing Pride and Prejudice, the musical, your dramaturg, a big part of their job is to say, well, no, you can't have this happen because that would never happen in the 19th century in England. Sorry.
Good job. Good job. You got it.
Jane Austen, is that a British name? So a
Sounds
big part,
Texan to me.
if it's set in a specific time period, the dramaturg will be in charge of that chiefly, but also when I was working on Be More Chill, we had an amazing dramaturg who her job was to say, like, what are the given circumstances of this world where a supercomputer can be ingested and implanted in your cerebrum, and is it consistent? It's similar to, in a film, a continuity director, someone who says, are we consistently working within the confines of the world that you built? What is it, and how do we keep it so that it's clear to the audience?
I like to think of dramaturgs too as experts in a particular topic. Like if you guys know the show Big Bang Theory, they had people who were really working in dramaturgy who were physicists, who would make sure that the things the actors were saying were correct. So they would assist the writing team. But then all of the blackboards and whiteboards in the show were written by actual physicists so that things were consistent. And they would also put little jokes for other physicists in there, which, that's always fun to do as a dramaturg. I think the dramaturgy too, there's sometimes, like, you guys will encounter this so much, where you'll say something in a play and you'll not really understand what it means because it's coming from someone else's perspective. My favorite one of these was when I did A Christmas Carol. Scrooge at the end says to Bob Cratchit, "Come, Bob, let's share a bowl of smoking bishop." And none of us knew what that meant. At all. But our dramaturg stepped up because they knew exactly what it was. It's like a mulled wine drink that they used to drink that it's pretty tasty. We actually made a batch of it. Our dramaturg made a batch of it for us. But that person will research the time period. And if you have to say stuff about things that we don't do anymore, like we're not making plum puddings for Christmas as much anymore. So they will talk to you about what that actually looked like so that you're representing the world in the best way possible. But yeah, they're like experts. They're experts on this stuff. And they're also someone, if they don't know something about something, they'll research it. And then everybody is on the same page in the play. So that's a crazy cool job. It's also one of the only disciplines where you can get a PhD in theater. Most of the time you can't be a doctor of anything in theater except dramaturgy. It's just master's degrees.
Okay.
I think it's also important to point out that, like, some theaters that you work at, they don't have the budget to have those underlying people. So, like, all the stagehands that Molly has mentioned, or the dramaturgy, like, those usually, if your theater is a small theater, like, the actors are the stagehands.
Yeah.
Like, you are also doing other jobs as actors, and the director would be in charge of the dramaturgy at that point, or maybe their assistant director, if they were lucky enough to have an assistant director, they could help with that. But a lot of theaters that I've worked at who aren't necessarily like Broadway level, but like are still professional, they just don't have the budget to have all those positions filled. So it falls to those head people right there. So directors would be doing dramaturgy.
Yeah, back in
Just
the
a
old
no.
days, at Round Barn Theater, Jeremy Littlejohn, who was the artistic director before me, he used to do a dramaturgy packet for everybody and would literally look up all the references, like, oh, they talk about Mount Rushmore. Mount Rushmore is a mountain in South Dakota. Like, and he would talk about what everything is so that everyone was on the same page. And it was really valuable. And not everybody used it. Not everybody used the packet, but at least the director was on the right page. And if you had a line and you didn't know what something was, you could look it up. It's a lot.
Well, a great example would be you, Amber, as the director for Plain and Fancy when I did it, especially that first time, because I didn't know it. I'm not familiar with the Amish community or what it may mean. You always made sure that we understood the text. Like, we weren't just saying words, we understood exactly what we were saying. And that was very important, because I know some actors, they won't take the extra time to do that. They'll find their intention. If it hits right with the director in the moment, then they're good. They're not going to do more research on it, kind of situation, which is not good. You should do your research. But also, I remember we had a whole lesson set aside within a rehearsal on how to do the quilt and to make it accurate, because Amber herself knows how to quilt and she has so many of them. So she wanted to make it as accurate as possible on stage, because she knew that people would be paying attention to that in the community of which we were presenting our show, because there are lots of quilters. So that's just one example of where a director did the dramaturgy for me.
Yeah, thanks, Katie. So that's great. I think, what else do we have? Like, there's all kinds of assistant directors and things of that nature that they're just production to production. But if you want to start directing, being an assistant director or an assistant to a director is a great place to start. And it's kind of the same skills as stage management. It really is, but it's all about some secondary skills in, like, being real bossy, and being good at, like, seeing pictures on stage and having ideas for how to tell a story with other people. Like, there's some skills in there that are learned skills that you really need to experience to learn.
I think you raise a really good point with being able to see a picture on stage, and I think the best directors are good communicators, because I could have a great picture in my head, but if I can't find a way to say it in a way that my designers and actors understand what I want, it's going to stay up there, and what you're going to see on stage is going to be a hot mess.
That's true. It's very true, especially when directors think, oh, all I have to do is tell people where to go, because there's a lot more to it. So, directing. I feel good about that topic. We have Paul talking about jobs in music.
Yeah, I don't really do a lot of work with music, so I had to do some research for this. So, speaking of, it just takes a delay. Speaking of directing, the role that I frequently find myself in, the music director, who is, you'd think, in charge of the whole music department. But no, I mean, in some productions, yes. Like Miss Katie said, in some smaller theaters, the music director is going to be in charge of all the music, hence the title music director. But certainly on the Broadway level, there is another level to it, and that is the music supervisor. I heard someone very wisely say once that if we brought back the Tony Award for music direction, there would be no more music supervisors. And the music supervisor is very similar to the music director. They're in charge of the full scope of the music, whereas the music director specifically is in charge of running the show every night, playing the show if they are a piano conductor or conducting the show. The music supervisor really oversees everything from, orchestration. Frequently, a music supervisor will also be the orchestrator. On West Side Story, which I just did, our music director was also our music supervisor. So the two are very, very closely linked. So you've got your music supervisor, who's like right at the top. You've got a music director who oversees the orchestra, the pit orchestra, full of musicians. So that's another job. Then you also have the assistant or associate musical director. The difference between assistant and associate is it's a bunch of minutia that we don't have to get into, but it refers to responsibilities that are mostly outside of like playing the show. Frequently, the assistant musical director will be in the pit, and once a week, the music director will step out and watch the show, and the assistant music director will conduct, so that the music director doesn't have to focus on doing the show, just listens and take notes to give to the actors. The music director is also in charge of the actors' musical choices, learning all of their music. They got a full plate. They also coordinate with the orchestrator, another job. The orchestrator takes the music from the composer, another job, or composing team, and says, okay, this is what I think the musical world of the show, this is what I think it sounds like. They will choose, they have a lot of influence over how many instruments are in your orchestra pit and how they're used. They will write out all the parts, and part of that is literally just looking at the piano part or the sometimes guitar part that the composer gives you and says, okay, this piece will be played by the violins and this piece will be played by the clarinets. But it's really a lot more than that. They are fleshing it out, and sometimes they will I could tell stories about the ways in which, if you look at the piano score and then look at the orchestral score, an orchestrator really made something blossom. Jonathan Tunick and Michael Starobin are two of the big ones, for example, with Sondheim, that, you know, frequently composers will have close relationships with. So they have a sort of shorthand, and a composer will write something and know, oh, well, Jonathan will know that I wanted that to be a flute. So you have your pit musicians, your music director, your assistant or associate music director, who's your secondary conductor. There are frequently other conductors that, you know, if someone gets sick, just like, you know, we all need understudies. So there are what's called subs, like a substitute teacher you might get in class, a sub in a pit. And that person will be responsible for, every musician is responsible for having 4 subs. This is at the Broadway level. In an open-ended run, you don't know how long it's going to be going on. You don't know if you're going to get sick or you're going to get taken out of town. You have to go to a wedding, who knows? You can say, I have someone who has sat in the pit and read along, has learned my book and knows the ways that this show functions. Not just knows the notes, but knows the arc of the show and how the conductor likes to take a little more time before this downbeat or something like that. And they will be able to step in. 4 subs per musician. That's 100 people in the West Side Story pit. So 25 players, each of them have 4 subs. The copyist, who is in charge of making the sheet music that the orchestrator will say, I've decided who plays what. Here, Kathy Edmonds, now you take this and you make it legible for the musicians to read. And then all the way at the bottom is the music assistant, and that's what I do a lot. And that person is responsible for continuity. They're sort of a dramaturg for the music department, or I like to think of it as a stage manager for the music department specifically. That we are in charge of making sure everyone's score that everyone is looking at is the same thing. If something changes, everyone gets that change. You know, I mean, there were even times when I went out on a coffee run once or twice. There's also rehearsal musicians. When you're in a rehearsal and you don't have the full pit, you still have a piano player who is going to come and play. And they have various other, they can sometimes be sent off to a room, say this person is having trouble learning their part, make a recording just plunking out the melody for them that they can take home and listen to, things like that. I think that's everything.
What about the what?
The music contractor, who's in charge of hiring musicians. The orchestrator will say, I need 4 reed players and 6 string players and 3 brass players. And the music contractor goes and says, I will find these people for you, and hires them. They're like a casting director.
Casting director, yeah. Go ahead, Katie.
Is the music contractor also responsible? Are they the ones that pick the subs, or do the individual instrumentalists actually find their subs?
That's a great question. Yeah, each orchestra member is responsible for finding their own subs. And
their own, okay.
Work. And I mean, you probably in other departments as well, you know that there are people, if you can't take a gig or something, you say, oh, you know who would be great for this. So who'd be great for this person is the person that you want on your sub list, someone who's going to represent you well when you're gone.
That's great. What about, are there any music jobs in non-musicals?
Absolutely. Oh, what a great question.
Thank you.
Yeah, there are plays that have music, that have musical underscoring, and I have composed for plays. I've written
too.
music. It's just, yeah, Amber too. Um, and that's so yeah, composing is probably my favorite job in the music department because you have so much control. There's also, I mean, if we're including in the world of music the world of sound, there is a sound designer who decides where we hang speakers and how we create sound. They really have a lot of influence over what the audience feels, and the audience has no idea. You know, if they hear something coming from over here, or if the bass is really pushing in a certain moment, there are reasons that someone made that choice. That person can have an assistant or an associate sound designer. Then there's the sound board operator who sits in the back of the house and hears the mix and you know, is writing the levels for the whole show. We need to hear this person more here. This person is being kind of quiet. Oh, this person is pushing. I'm going to pull them back. And then there's an A2, or the A1 is the soundboard operator. The A2 is the person who's backstage. If something happens with a microphone, they are there to fix it, switch out the batteries, or fix the element. Yeah.
It's a ton. It's a ton of jobs working with sound and music. It is crazy. It is crazy. And this is the thing that you were just talking about. If you have a skill and you're interested in theater, this is one of those, sound design and lighting design, which we haven't really chatted about, but we're going to talk about jobs in design. If you are good with electronics or engineering, sound is one of those jobs. It's always in demand. People always need good sound designers. They're very hard to find. And being really good at like hearing a mix of music. So like listening to music and being good at listening to music is one of the skills of that job. Like it's crazy. It's crazy how many cool jobs that can tailor to your skill set that aren't just being on stage, that are still instrumental pieces of what happens in the theater. It's crazy. And yeah, it's plays, musicals, all of it. Love it. I love it. Jobs in design. There's, again, I'm not going to dig too deep into all of the assistance stuff. Like I could literally talk to you guys about what a costume department should look like for the full hour. But there are different, like any element that's on stage has been designed by somebody and it's there for a reason. So costume designers obviously make all of the clothes or design all of the clothes, and they have a team of people like drapers and pattern makers, like people who cut things out. There's a specialization in cutting things out. If you're good at cutting things out. Side story, my friend Isaac worked for the Joffrey Ballet as a stitcher, and they had a bunch of custom beadwork made for the bodices of some ballerinas' things, and it came from Belgium. And because it came from Belgium and it took so long to handcraft these pieces, he had to cut them all out. And you have one chance. You can't mess anything up, because if you have one little snip of the scissors that was even a little bit wrong, the whole piece would unravel, and there's no time to have people in Belgium redo this Belgian lace and beadwork. So that's a high pressure. That's the bomb tech of the costuming world. But there's all kinds of jobs in costuming alone. But often the costume designer will work directly with the director within how we're going to tell the story the best. And there's all kinds of challenges in every show. Like you've got to know how clothes work, really. And you've got to have a creative mind and really be able to see shapes and stuff. And costume designers across the country, like there's the Broadway level stuff where you have to build a breakaway Elsa costume that's held together by magnets and gets sucked into a vacuum. That's how that's done. You might be at that level where you have to engineer something, just like your sound designers, and like you're running wires and you're making sure that the engineering on the piece works. Or you could just have a skill that's like, okay, well, we need these people to be in this. I need to build a belle dress. So I need a yellow prom dress from the 80s. Like you just find something that's the right shape and the right color and you make it work, and you can craft something into something else. A lot of cosplay people do this, and a lot of cosplay people are excellent at costume design. So there's those skills. There's also lighting design. Now, light is one of those unsung heroes of the theater. You don't even realize it's happening. and it affects so much of the mood and the tone and what you look at. What you look at is this, like, that is the storytelling of theater. If you're not looking at it, you're not hearing the story. And the lighting designer is literally bossing you around, telling you what to look at with the lights. And there's so much even about like mood, tone, and feeling that's like, you think it's the actor's performance and it's partially this light. So yeah, good actors have great lighting designers. So there's lighting design, and that's something that if you are interested in science as well, there's a lot of science that goes into light, because there are ways that colors combine. There are angles of light. If you're good with geometry, there are particular lighting instruments where you need to understand the angle that that goes out at, what the beam is shaped like, how you can manipulate that beam. So we're talking about lenses, light particles and light waves. We're talking about color. Like, this is an art form that combines so many different kinds of engineering and art at the same time. It's such a hard job. Again, love it. And they're always in demand, good lighting designers. And actually, Randa, who is Paul's human, who we've referenced a couple of times. Yes, indeed, she really is. She has skills in lighting design as well. She's also one of the best singers I've ever heard live in my life. But she also has the secondary skill of being incredible at lighting design. Also, if you like climbing things, then lighting design is for you. So there's lighting designers, set designers. So the world of the play is built by set designers, and a great set is a way to support that storytelling. But the thing about a set is that it's not a building. It's not real. It has to look real, and it has to like have the elements that the director wants, but it's not real. So it's another kind of engineering and geometry and mathematics that you have to make something look like it is something real when it isn't. It is amazing. And like set decorators, scenic painters, these folks support the set design in such a way that it helps create the reality of the play. And again, set design and lighting design and sound design all support the performances of the actors. Everybody thinks that theater is acting, that like when you want to be a theater artist, you're walking out there to be an actor. But so much of what you think and feel in a play or a musical that you go see is the responsibility of these costume, lighting, set, and sound designers. And it's incredible. It is an incredible work that we all do, and it is a team effort. But yeah, those are some of the jobs in design: sound, set, light, costume, and prop. So any element on stage is there for a reason. It was designed and made by somebody, and it is there to help support the story.
There's a new emerging design department.
I know what you're going to say.
Which for a
robots.
long time,
no, that's not it.
Oh, so soon. So soon.
No, I know what you're going to say. I'm excited.
But for a long time, it was either part of the set design category, or was it maybe part of the lighting design?
Yep, it's nobody knows. Everybody's like
projection.
Yep.
Yes. I love projections. They're so cool.
When they're done well, they're amazing.
Yes.
That production of Sunday in the Park with George, that was from 2000, early in the 2007 or 8. This is like one of the first shows that employed on the large scale this different idea of projection, because what better way for you kids? Sunday in the Park with George is about a painter, and he paints larger than life canvases, and there's canvases that come to life in the show, which, what a cool idea, right? Like, what a neat thing to do. But what better way to represent it than through putting projections up where he can actually paint and the things appear. Because that would be a lot to demand that an actor actually be able to paint at the level of the artist in the show, George Surratt. It would be impossible to get someone that gifted, because there's only ever been one, George Surratt. So projections. Oh my goodness. Good projection design is an amazing thing. And what are the skills that go into designing projections? It's kind of like film.
Yeah. And there's a lot of, we keep coming back to like science and math, which I know is not like, the most fun way to describe things. Maybe it is for me, but not for everybody. But you have to think about, a lot of projectors are not just like a movie projector where it's straight on. You might have one that's off to the side, it's at an angle, so you need to skew your image so that it doesn't, when I
There's also
saw
like
Sondheim on Sondheim
yeah.
probably a few years ago, they had moving set pieces that had projections on them, so the projection had to move with the set piece. Unreal.
That's incredible. I think there's also a lot of computer programming that goes
Mm-hmm.
into designing those projections and working with computers, working with like video editing and animation. If you are into animation, this is a cool way to be an animator because a friend of mine who has done projection design said the thing that he loved about doing the animation of set design is of projection design was that it was just the backgrounds. So he didn't have to worry about what was happening in the foreground. So all of his background animations became more detailed. So he loved doing that. So he would put like a little bird. We did, it was for Wonderland. And the projection had a little bird in it. And I was like, that is so tiny, detailed, and wonderful. I was like, oh, it's just so cool. Or the projections of Mary Poppins have flying birds that like go through. It's an amazing way to add a little piece of realism and artistry, but also not 100% real, like hyper real, like theater, which is very cool. Projection design. Yes, Paul. Yes. Bringing in the computers. I love it. So can we think of anything else? I think that covers some of it. There's still so many more jobs, y'all. It's in design. What?
Fight director?
Fight. Oh, that's right. Stage combat.
Choreographer.
Choreographers of all kinds, the people that tell you about the specialized movements.
Yeah. Fight choreography.
Stage
really
combat.
fun, guys.
It is. We had a little class that Miss Katie taught for stage combat on Goshen Theater Drama Club's free lessons on Facebook. It's still up there if you guys want to go watch it. It's fun. What is it? Dagger?
Which one is it? It's like intro to rapier work. with a sword. But I should probably get on it and do another one of like hand to hand, which is more fun because it includes like slapping people and choking them. Violence, but fake violence.
Yes, it's very fun. Very fun. What else we got?
Puppeteers. That's one that's interestingly. I just think it's fascinating. I was researching for a lesson for camp because we're going to be talking about puppetry in camp. And I was just like, I knew that there was puppetry done in theater, obviously. Like, I knew, but like, guys, it took at least 10 people to operate King Kong for King Kong. Like, I've never seen King Kong. I haven't really tried to listen to the soundtrack because I'm not that interested. But let me tell you, after researching puppetry, I need to go see King Kong because I want to see the monkey. That's where it's at. I need to see it.
There's like a lot of fantastical stuff. Puppets are the only option. When I did the Fellowship of the Ring back in 2001, everything was puppets. Everybody that played a pony, the ponies were all puppets, and all of the actors had to do puppetry. All of us. It was amazing.
I was Gingy Shrek. That was very, very fun.
Gingy.
This arm got really strong because I was also the Sugar Plum Fairy. So I was like the Sugar Plum Fairy, but then when Gingy spoke, I just put Gingy out and changed my voice.
That's awesome.
That's a skill.
Yeah. Next, Jekyll and Hyde.
You also have like Ursula's tentacles on Broadway. A lot of times there are puppet masters, stagehands. I would consider them puppet masters.
Yeah.
I don't know what their technical titles are on the stage technically, but I would consider them puppeteers. Where they make her tentacles move as if they're actually in water, and it looks realistic, and it's just really fun because they contribute to that actress being able to perform realistically, and I just think that's really fun.
What they're doing is actually really related to flight work and like flight teams, and which that's another job in the theater. When we did Beauty and the Beast at Round Barn Theater, the guy who played the Beast, Jason, he worked for a flight company, and he's now opened his own flight company in Florida. He's awesome. He did all of our aerial silks for The Little Mermaid when me and Katie did it. It's a very Little Mermaid conversation.
Guys, it was so much fun. I got stuck. It was fun. There's this really great video that Shayna Greverson took of me one day when I was like before the show hanging out in the silks and I got stuck at them. Ashley had to come get me out.
Yeah, the aerial silks are another thing that's happening. So there's like acrobats and gymnastic consultants, those folks. And then for flying is a whole thing. When I did Mary Poppins, it took 3 people to operate my flight rig. So there's 3 different motions. There's up and down, side to side, and then diagonal. And I could move in a number of different ways. We didn't utilize all of them, as you can imagine. If Mary Poppins did aerial flips, that would not necessarily. Great idea. A commedia dell'arte to the woods. Oh, yeah, what?
And this is very, very specific, but maybe it's becoming a trend on Broadway. Who knows? Video. We had a whole video team on West Side Story because we had live cameras on stage that were capturing close-ups and projecting them on the screen behind us.
That's so cool. Yeah, like
the revival of Oklahoma used that as well.
Video check, like concert style.
Too.
Yeah, the prom. You're right. That's another thing. Like there's always going to be trends in Broadway and trends in theater. You never know what skill you have is going to be the thing that gets you the job. Like because I play instruments, I would get work. We talked about that a lot.
Something that falls under like that director dramaturgy area would be like a dialects coach, guys.
Ooh,
like a really good ear for dialects. Huge.
That's awesome. I love that one. People who are like those vocal coaches and dialect coaches, they're instrumental in creating the world of the play. Like even, it doesn't even have to be like accents from other countries. I did Smoke on the Mountain in Chicago. And we had a dialect coach who unified the family's accent in a particular place in Mississippi. Like they zoomed in on where they wanted us to be from. And like, that's the accent that we all had to learn.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Oh, that's great, Katie.
And we've gone backstage and we've talked about the people you don't see on stage, but then there are the people who aren't even like on the stage or in the, like a hugely important job is the producer.
There you go. Yeah.
The whole thing together. And that's frequently a team or a company.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a really good point.
Below that.
That's like without producers, honestly, none of us would have anything. And they have to have so much trust because they are putting something out and saying, this is my product. This is a thing that I am producing. I am supporting this and I am allowing this creative team to take the reins of this and create something. Like that's huge. Yeah. Without producers, there's also arts administrators are a lot of the people that are running those theater companies. And that's obviously what I'm doing every day now with my life. But arts administration is a particular skill set, and working in nonprofit in particular, there's all kinds of jobs in nonprofit arts and nonprofit theater arts that are not on stage jobs. They're not even like in the venue jobs. They're the people who are writing grants, asking other folks for money, getting donations, setting up campaigns and donation campaigns to make certain that these programs and theater arts happen in your communities. So these are the people that connect your community to these artists and this art. And that is more than instrumental. Like without arts administrators and without production teams and theater companies, the company part of the companies, then you don't have theater at all.
You also have more the public relations side of theater. So like the box office and the ushers, they may not have anything to do with the story itself, but they make sure that the audience is taken care of and that they are comfortable and they're ready and set to hear your story. So, if you don't feel you're creative, like you don't want to be telling the story, but you love theater and you want to make that accessible to other people, being in the box office and public relations is huge.
Yeah.
You need people to bring in, the house manager.
Yeah, all of those folks set the tone too for what the experience of being at the theater is like for your audience. And without an audience, we're nothing.
Right.
Maybe. And that's also the other important job in theater is going to see theater. Being the audience. If you want to work for theater, go see shows.
Viewers like you.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, there's all kinds of other specializations and small things. Like I had written down a few things like animal trainers. There's specialists in fog and smoke. There's specialists in water effects. And we talked about like video designers. There's so many things. If you have a passion, there is a place that you can take that passion in the theater, because we're recreating a hyper realistic / non-realistic fantastical version of life. We're putting people in circumstances to tell an amazing story, and any discipline that you have could be part of it, from being a physicist to really liking dogs. Like anything you do can be a part of the theater. So that's awesome, you guys. This is fun, and I'm sure the comments are going to be like, well, you guys forgot this major category of theater jobs, the street pavers or something. Like I don't know what it'll be. Riggers. We didn't talk about rigging, but that's a good job if you like to climb things as well. But yeah, we hit a lot of bases. If there's theater jobs that you can think of that we didn't mention, pop it down in the comments. And if you guys want us to get more specific or have specific questions about any of those specializations, if we don't know, we'll find someone who does, and maybe we'll find a special guest to come in and talk about it. All you got to do is ask those questions, and we will get to those next week in episode 10 of the Goshen Theater Drama Club Table Talks.
Running out of fingers.
Hey, this will officially be out of fingers. We're going to have to start taking them from other people. We're going to have to do, like, for episode 11, Paul is going to have to contribute one. Yeah, there it is. Perfect. Done. So next week's episode, this is something that we think is really important, especially in these times. There's so much going on socially, you guys, and we know that our students and students all over, and even, grown-ups and parents, we all have a perspective on what is happening. And we're going to talk next week about how to raise your voice, how to make your perspective heard through art. There are so many examples. We're going to talk about examples through history and theater history, musical theater history, of people taking the circumstances that they were in and putting it in their art. So we're going to talk about that next week, which we're very excited about. There's so much happening in our world right now, and we know that those things can get difficult. One of the ways that I feel best when I cope with all of these things that happen are, one, to talk to my friends about it, like here at Table Talks, and two, to create something that is beautiful, even in adverse circumstances. So we're going to talk about that next week, you guys. We're looking forward to it. And thank you guys for tuning in. Miss Katie, any final thoughts?
I don't think so. Just as an individual, have lots of different interests and explore every interest you may have. You never know where it will come in use.
Very true. Any words of wisdom, Miss Molly?
Yeah, I guess along the same lines, stay true to you, and that will take you where you need to go. And register for Drama Club until June 10th.
Yes, there's still time to join our drama club, because if you don't know what your special skills are, well, we're doing all kinds of crazy stuff with all kinds of special skills. So maybe you'll find something you love in drama club. Paul, final thoughts?
A healthy diet of fruits and vegetables is necessary to any good healthy individual. Start your day with something. Grapefruit, a citrus fruit.
Oh.
Also good fiber in a grapefruit. Good for the system.
It
and
is.
Get lots of sleep.
Get lots of sleep. Oh, this is great. We'll do a like a health episode. Episode 11.
Can we?
Yeah.
I would love that.
Molly, you could tell us all about your personal training stuff.
Yeah, wait. I'm in. Okay, let's do it.
Okay, I'm writing it down. Health. The drama of health. The health of drama.
Even stamina as an actor.
There you go. Oh, yes. And vocal health,
Yes.
dancing
Great.
health. Okay. We're brilliant. We're just going to get all the ideas. So we hope
It's made, kids.
We hope that you enjoyed episode 9 of the Goshen Theater Drama Club Table Talks. We want to thank you guys for being with us today. Thanks for watching. Tune in next week for episode 10. It'll drop next Friday. Hey, Paul, Do you maybe want to join us again? I think it'd be great to have a composer talk about like how to maybe like I know you're not one of the panelists. Obviously, it's just me and Molly.
Right. No, this isn't something I do regularly, but
No.
yeah, I guess I'll move my weekly corn making club.
This is going really well for you, both of you. I'm so
Bring your
proud of
own
you.
paddle, and just we all get in front of a big pot. We're wearing masks, don't worry. Anyway, I'll move it for you.
Kettle Corn Club. Well, we would really appreciate it if you kick out the Kettle Corn Club next week and join us for episode 10. Raise your voice. Whew, good golly. And on that note, thank you guys for tuning in. And a special thanks goes out to Goshen Noon Kiwanis for supporting Goshen Theater Drama Club. We love you guys. And thank you all for tuning in. We will see you next week. Goodbye.
Bye, guys.